nothing in it. So, look at this. Let's look at this. Let's move to something. These are 3-pound blacksmith hammers, cross pins. This one I'm dressing them. They start out looking like this. Real gross, flat face, flat cross pin. Then you dress them up so the face is nice and smooth and nice for forging, and the cross pin smooth and rounded. So that's what we're doing. So you remember my machine shop for years without wearing a hat or cap? That is one wild spark. Wow, yeah. That would suck. Still, jeez. That must have been a big spark. Was it like a piece of weld spatter or something? Because I can't imagine like a grinder spark like getting you a scar in a bald spot. That'd have to have been a hell of a grinder spark. Like if you're not careful, like a concentrated stream like that will burn a hole in your clothes. But, jeez, yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, I'm just dressing blacksmith hammers. So it starts out gross flat face like that, and a real gross flat crossbeam, and you end up with a nice smooth face and a smooth rounded crossbeam. So yeah. What was the second one? Well, I've been forging for about like 3 years ish, but just like good. I've only been good for like a year or so. But yeah, I work for a guy teaching blacksmithing and doing production work, and so these are the like school hammers. So they're all nasty because they're used by children. So I gotta dress them every so often. But yeah, there's a lot more too. There's these 8. Those are cross beams. I already did 5 6-pound sludges, and then I got another like dozen cross beams and 11 cross beams and a ball peen right there. So I got a lot more hammers to dress. Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's really nice, especially to be able to make your own stuff. I'm not taking these. Well, here I got a couple of things. Like I just finished this carving axe the other day, and this thing is real sharp. See, can I get a good? Yeah, there you go. Like, it's nice and sharp. But, yeah, that's forged from a ball peen hammer. So I forged, squished this bit out, and then I forged like a bowling gouge type thing in there. I'm not super good at wood carving. Let's see, where's the thing I made? I carved a spoon. I can't remember where I set it. But yeah, the like actual spoon bit is super rough because I just carved it with the gouge. But like even the rest of this, I'm not a good wood carver, and I was able to throw this thing together in like less than 10 minutes with the carving axe. So yeah, it's certainly a good carving axe. It's not the limiting factor. Oh yeah, it's sharp. But like you can see how thin that edge is. Yeah, I mean that's the first time I've ever carved anything with a carving axe, so it's not too bad considering. But yeah, I also do like wood processing axes like this. So like this will chop wood, and then you got the spike for like picking up logs and stuff. And it's basically like a picaroon, and it holds pretty good. So yeah, that's that. Also made from a ball peen hammer. Hey, what's up, John? How's it going? What's up, Florida? Nice to meet you. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Carpenter, not really. Blacksmith, yes. I can make pretty cool hammer handles. Like most of my hammer handles, like I don't know, this one you can see that in the light there, made from scratch, hammer handle from scratch. But like other than that, not really a woodworker. I can do some, but I'm not. It's not my skill. You know. But yeah, right now we are working on forge those hammers. No, these are just cheap hardware store hammers. Because yeah, here's one nicely dressed. My skill is blacksmithing, forging. I do mostly knives. Let's see, is there anything forged recently? I don't think I have any knives here. I'm doing knives, production knives. But yeah, I'm a blacksmith and knife maker. Now, I'm in Pennsylvania, but I'm dressing all these hammers. I'll show them again. I got these 8 cross peens. So these are just all 3-pound cross peens. Then I have 5 6-pound mini sledges. So those are like the striking hammers. And then I have a bunch more smaller cross peens. So these are 2 pounds, and these are 1 pound. And those are, because you don't want smaller hammers, because what I do is I teach blacksmithing at like a summer camp type thing. So like it's all like middle school kids, and they're not going to be swinging around a 3-pound hammer like it's nothing. They're all like with these. Some of the bigger guys, but mostly the little guys are swinging the little hammers. But I gotta have them all nicely dressed, See, that's what I do. And I just got the 36 grit belt. I'm just rough grinding these. Yeah. For cross peen, these hardware store, like as it comes from the store, these are horrible. It's like basically a square. And it's square this way. So you want to curve it that way and then curve it this way. And that way it won't leave any ugly dents in your work. Is heat-treated leaf spring good for an axe? Yes. Leaf spring is good for many things. Give me a sec. This is an axe that I have in progress. It's going to be about a 5, maybe 5¼ pound splitting axe, but this is a chunk of leaf spring in the bit here. Leaf spring is good for axes, for sure. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, that's going to be a really cool axe when it's done. But, To get back on these hammers, I got a lot to do. I have the Harbor Freight Doyle anvil, and I just have like a little, like, tiny little vise. I don't have a blacksmith vise yet, because I don't have a huge need for it. I do like axes and knives and stuff, not like fancy blacksmith. Ugh, you know what I mean. I don't do like architectural stuff. Yeah, I sharpen my drill bits. They're buried under a pile of axes right now. But here's one. No, not that one. Drill bits are pretty easy to sharpen. If you have a bench grinder, you can do it. So if you imagine this is spinning. Hey, what's up? So you got your two angles right there. And then you want the edge like perpendicular to the ground, parallel with the ground. And then you just meet the edge in and swoop up a little bit. Just zoop up like that, just a tiny little bit. You don't want to use a wheel this coarse. You want to use a finer wheel like a 120 or a 220. And then you do the same thing on the other side, just zoop. And just tap in and swipe up. And alternate every like stroke or 2 strokes, just so that it stays even and that center point stays in the middle. Practice on a larger one first before you try a real little one. But I can sharpen down through like 16th inch. So like even like a little bitty drill bit like this, you can sharpen if you're good. It helps if you get one of these Optivisors. So it's a lot of like bench drillers use them, and you can just like put it on, and it'll let you see what you're doing a lot better with the little ones. Yeah, there's a lot of drill bit sharpening jigs, but if you can do it without a jig, then you're pretty, like, you'll be pretty good. Yeah. One of those little Optivisors, or if you have like a bench like one of those magnifying glasses that's on like an articulating arm, that'll work great as well. But yeah, that's how you sharpen a drill bit. It's really pretty easy. Yeah, you have to have a steady hand. It helps a lot if you have a grinder that has a work rest like this, or a work rest like this. Just gonna go in there, obviously. You go like there. But like the buffing wheel's on there right now. But I usually use either this with like a 120 or 220 and the 6-inch contact wheel there, or I use the bench grinder with the finer wheel. And those usually work pretty good. You need like a relatively steady hand, but you're not like holding there for ages. You're just going like zoop, zoop. So you just need to be like pretty accurate with your angles and you should be good. It's not like earth-shatteringly difficult, you know what I mean? Well done, good luck to you. Russia, hello, how's it going? Thank you. Yeah, same thing for sharpening a chisel. Watch might be difficult to work. Got a big bucket of water down here to catch all the sparks. So that's probably, no, it's still nice and cool. You just don't want to like stick your face underneath the sparks. That would be bad. But other than that, it's fine. It's not a very dangerous job, especially not this bit, just dressing hammers and stuff, which is what I'm doing right now. Yeah, it's only really dangerous if you're complacent about safety. What kind of metal does this hammer contain? English, I might be able to. I'm trying to just. No, it's okay. I got you. These hammers are steel. It's probably some, I don't know exactly what it is because they're just hardware store hammers, but it's probably some sort of medium carbon tool steel. Like 1045. They do rust, so it's not a stainless steel. Probably 1045, if I was to guess. That's a very common hammer steel. I don't know exactly. I could like take a spark sample and send it off for testing, but I don't really care, to be honest with you. They work, not super well, but they do work. But yeah, it's steel. That's what they're made of. All right, we got a different shaped one, but this is, yeah, there you go. Oh, dude. Like, it's so square. I don't know why they think that's going to be good, but you have to completely round it out. And they leave them square this way, too. Like, the difference between a fairly well-dressed one and an undressed is ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, it's bad. Especially like if you're spreading something out widthwise, it's almost impossible to hit square. So you hit on it on this corner or this corner, and you just get corner dents, and you don't even move the material. But with this, there's no corner dents because you hit with the middle. Like, it's ridiculous. Heck, there's even some blacksmiths that make hammers that leave the pins flat like that, and I do not understand why they do that. It's just well beyond me. But yeah, there you go. That's your rant for today. So much better. Have you used 45? I have not used a diagonal peen hammer. None of these hammers are actually mine. These are for the place I teach at. But I'm just looking around yard sales for like one of these sledge style, like 3 or 4 pound hammers. And I'm just going to forge a diagonal peen because I really want a diagonal peen. That looks so nice. But I can't afford to buy one. So, but dude, like I like sculpted and octagonalized the handle on this one because it was like at like the widest point, it was like this big. It was ridiculous. It was like a sledgehammer handle on a 3 pound, it is a 3 pound crossbeam. It was absurd. Like, I couldn't even swing that properly, let alone like a little kid. Which is should actually be using it. But yeah, they all spark well when you're using a brand new 36 grit belt. But maybe this one's a little bit more than the other ones. Get that nicely rounded out. And now I'm going to go through and clean them all up with a dull 36 grit. Because that's really all I need. I don't want to leave them at the sharp 36 grit finish. And I don't want to bother taking them up through the grit. So I don't have any sharp ones. Thanks, Ron. That's awesome. Thanks for the $3. We're dressing hammers right now. This is one I just did. So that can go in the bucket. That's awesome. Thank you for the donation. I'll show you what we got. So we got another 7 3-pound crossbeams. There's the one I just did. And then 5 6-pound sled strikers. And then another like dozen crossbeams of other sizes. These are 2-pound. These are 1 pound. These are all for work that I'm dressing, but yeah. So work, keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you again for the donation. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. Yeah. We got this 3-pound rounder too. Yeah. Now, y'all 100 of you that are watching, I got 100 people here. You see Homemade with Ron in the chat. Go subscribe to him. He has a dope YouTube channel as well. So he does a whole bunch of live streams stuff making knives. Go subscribe to Homemade with Ron. He's one of the coolest Canadians I know. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to him. 2-pounders. Oh, this is going to take a lot of doing on this side. that? Who fucking grinds the end of a hammer? Blacksmith. That's who. Got the one finished. So these have even been dressed already, but you see how the face is perfectly flat. I dressed them before, but not very well. The face is perfectly flat, and the peen is also perfectly flat. That's bad. You don't want that. So what you do is you get this curved this way, and curved this way, and curved this way, and curved all the different ways. So that way when you're forging, you get nice, smooth forging and clean forging, and you don't get all sorts of hammer, like corner dents. Especially with the peen, that's a big thing. But with the face, it's also big too. You don't want to edge your corner dents when you're forging. Because that's where all the junkiness comes from. Most of the time. And that's the main reason a lot of beginner smiths' work doesn't look that great, is because they just have a bunch of hammer dents in there from using poorly dressed hammers or completely undressed hammers. So yeah, you gotta dress them. Those are done. There we go. They have joined the bucket of hammers. That's 5 plus 8 is 13 plus 6 is what, 21. We just got these ones to do. Then we'll be at 27. There we go. That should go pretty quickly. Sergio, what's up? Tanya, how's it going? What's up, Martin? I'm just dressing some forging hammers. I'm almost done, actually. I only have 6 more to do. And those are the little ones. They'll be done quick. Oh. Hey, you're learning. What's up, Joe? How's it going? I'm on to the 1-pounders, so we're almost done. We got a hefty bucket of hammers over here. Well, this is probably like almost 70 pounds here. Yeah, you're learning. Pretty soon I won't be able to dad joke you anymore. But yeah, we're just grinding all on our way through. There we go. We're back. Last time it wouldn't, I could just killed the stream, but looks like we're good now. Alright, we're back. What's up, Arcia? Alright, see ya, John. Yeah, we're back. The Wi-Fi just did its Wi-Fi blip thing. I had to restart stream earlier because it blipped, and YouTube just was like, "Nah, let's not reconnect," which was awesome. But we're back now. 3 left. I said we're back, not I'm back. I did not say that. We're back too, bro. Let's go, man. I said we're back, not I'm back. We're back. So if I'm back, then so are you, Joe. But I'm not back because I've always been here. You're the one that left. Yeah. got 2 more. Almost done. And I'm Duck. I got more. I am John, but I'm also Duck. But yeah, there's our completed bucket of hammers. What's up, Glacio? Glacio? John Duck? Yeah. Like John Doe, but John Duck. Also, we got this nice cross peen that I finished up the other day. Yeah, it's 27 hammers. It's all rainy and gross out. But yeah. see, those probably like, let's see, maybe 2.5 hours. About 2.5 hours to 405 maybe. And the motor's warm, but yeah, that is what it is. Yeah, but our Grizzly 2x42 is doing real well. But I'm tired and hungry, so I'm gonna turn it off and go get lunch because it's 2 o'clock. I'll probably be out working later. I might do a live stream. I'm not sure. Let's see where the thing go. Did it drop? No. Yeah, I do need to clean up. I need to clean up. But it's a pretty functional workshop as is, so I might not. But I need to look around and find that blade. Have you had a problem with the grinder being too weak? No, I have not. Unless you really like over tighten it. Hey, what's up, Bevel and Bark? I just got done dressing all these hammers. So they're all properly dressed now. I haven't had a problem with it being too weak. Other than a couple of times, I was running the platen way too tight. And so just the amount of friction, this was before I had the glass platen, just the amount of friction from that, like it overloaded it and the motor overheated. But just like running slack belt like this or just running a contact wheel, you won't have a problem with that. Heard from Old Hickory Forge's review that was too weak. Yeah, I'll bet back when it first came out, they were too weak. But it's a 3/4 horsepower motor now, which is a pretty good amount of, like, that's a decent size motor. And like it's warm, but it's not like danger hot. And that's after 2.5 hours of hard grinding with a rough 36 with a new 36 grit belt to remove tons and tons of material. So yeah, it's good. Very good. I love this. Like from the factory, it's maybe like an 8, a 7 or 8 out of 10. But the customizability and upgradability of this is peak. It's awesome. So like I have these, even just with rubber contact wheel, like this is a 3-inch contact wheel I think I have on the bottom, and I have a 6-inch over here. Even with just that is great. But like you replace the platen, you put a nice new platen on, you can make your bolts and washers and all sorts of junk. And you upgrade these bolts, and like you could probably replace the tracking system. You could probably buy Brian House's house-made tracking system and slap that on this thing and use that. And that would probably work just fine. And you can like buy like third party, like a small wheel thing or stuff like that, or make your own stuff. It's awesome. For platen, I just have a piece of 1/4 by 2 angle iron that I like cut out and all this stuff so it fits on there. And then I got an Amazon glass platen kit that I put on there, and that's really nice. That works pretty good. The platen that comes with it, I don't know where the hell I put it, but it's junk. Like the factory platen is absolute garbage. because it's wider than the belt, so you can't do like plunge grinds or anything like that. But yeah, once you invest a little bit of time and money into it, it's a fantastic grinder, even without like replacing the electronics and stuff and the motor. Like even just a new wheel and a new platen will get you a professional quality grinder that can do professional quality work. So yeah. Also, once you start doing modifications, you put like a bigger platen on it, you put a bigger wheel on it. It won't fit the 2x42 belts very well. So just buy 2x48 belts. Like it fits 48 belts just fine, and they're much nicer. And you can do a lot more stuff with them. So yeah. Okay, yep, that can do all that stuff. Variable speed, flat grinds, and S grinds. It's not super duper cheap, but compared to like a 2x72, it's basically free. Like this, I got mine for $300 because it was a Christmas sale. So that was like 30% off. But you can, if you find another sale or you get like a coupon code or something, you can probably get a pretty good deal on it. That's the nice thing about like big box stores like Grizzly. There's also an upgraded version. The steel grinders are awesome. I would love to have one of those, but they are pricey. There's a upgraded version of the Grizzly 2x42 that like is designed to fit 2x48. So, and it's just, I think it's a 1 horsepower motor instead of 3/4. So it's a bit more powerful. Yeah, Blacksmith Supply sells the steel grinders. Those are really nice. And the upgraded version just has a bunch of quality of life stuff, I think. I think it might have like a reverse mode on the VFD and stuff like that, and a better motor that won't like self-destruct if you treat it wrong, you know. Stuff like that. But yeah. I might be getting I think, Joe, I think you know that I teach blacksmithing for a guy. And we might be getting the upgraded version of the 2x42. I think they're just 2x48s, really. The Grizzly 2x48s for the shop there. So if that happens, then I'll let you know. I'm not going to say exactly where at because that would like dox me. But it's at like a local summer camp, basically. So yeah, it's cool, and I teach blacksmithing there, and I'm going full time there this summer. So I'm going to be teaching full time, and also doing like production knives and axes and stuff for them to sell. So yeah, it's nice. It's a good setup. I get paid pretty good. But if we get 2x48s there, then I'll make sure to keep you posted about how nice the qualities and features on those. I don't remember them all off the top of my head. You can go on the Grizzly. You can go on the Grizzly site and look at them, obviously. But yeah, that's that. Little bit of other recent work. Finished this wood processing axe from Ball Peen Hammer. Finished this wood carving axe from a Ball Peen Hammer. This thing is wicked sharp. Get another sheet of paper. But yeah. Like you can hear how sharp this thing is. Yeah, it's nice and sharp. Real thin edge on this carving axe. But like, it'll like whittle and stuff too. Yeah, and it's got a bowling gouge adze type thing on the back. So I made a spoon with it. And I'm not a wood carver. And this took me like fetch the treasure and pay the man. I was able to make this like wooden spoon. Obviously, like the inside's not smooth because I was just like, chopping at it. But for a not wood carver, for my first time ever carving with one of these things, in like 10 minutes, not bad, I don't think. Yeah, I love that guy. But anyways, I am going to sign off and get some lunch because I'm hungry. So have a good one, Joe. Have a good one, everyone else who's watching. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe. It's cool. I do live streams and stuff. So yeah. Have a good one, y'all. Yeah, I'm going to go get something to eat. You get something to eat too, Joe.